Hey, welcome everyone. This is Leonard with the Artist Collective, and welcome to today's music industry chat. And I'm excited to have our guest on today. As you know, we have been talking about live stream strategies all month here in the Artist Collective, and we've had several speakers, we've had several lessons that we've done, and we've seen some really great examples of indie artists that are, basically taking this time and, gone from panic to pivot and even profit, being able to set up different frameworks and being able to use this time as a way to kind of forget the gatekeepers and just kind of focus on what's most important. And for a lot of us, that's our fans, and that is being able to have a direct connection with them. And regardless of if we planned this way to get here or not, this is the situation that we're in. So like I said, we've been trying all month to bring you ideas and strategies, and that's what we're going to continue to do. This is our last official music industry chat for the Livestream Strategies session, but today I'm excited to bring a very awesome individual. He's been in the music business for a while. He has done some really cool things. Hey, Oliver, how you doing? And yeah, not only has he played several roles and done a lot of different things with some artists, but he's guided people to multiple gold records, Grammy nominations. He sold out tours on 6 continents, and he was one of the early investors and advisors of Bands in Town. You may have heard of that. He's done quite a bit of stuff. I won't go through his whole resume. I'll let him tell a little bit more about that. But if you are here live, give me a hashtag live and let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're watching this on replay, give me a hashtag replay and let me know where you're tuning in from, because we would love to connect with you and just make sure that we get any questions answered. But please help me bring Mr. Randy Nichols into the room. Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Doing all right. How are you today?
Not too bad at all. Nice home office there with some sunlight in the back. I like that setting, looking pretty snazzy.
It's a great fake setup.
It's a
Nah,
green
this
screen.
is real. This is all real. I was ready for the pandemic. I've had an office at home for a few years, and
Nice.
literally just have the perfect office in my house. It's kind of nice. We close those doors over there at the end of the day and kind of leave office and have a very short commute to the couch.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Well, I
Uh,
appreciate you taking the time out, man. I know, we'll get into that here in just a little bit, but I understand that you've been pretty busy as of late, especially since the pandemic hit. But yeah, and guys, just so we've been, as I mentioned, we've been talking about live stream strategies. What we are going to dive into in just a few minutes with Randy is, just his strategy and his focus that him and a few guys put together with an awesome band called Underoath that has gotten a lot of press. And so we're just excited to have him here to talk about that. But before we talk about that, Randy, tell us a little bit just about some of your, other experiences in the music business. I see that you also were a booking agent at one time.
yeah, so
Forget.
I started in the business. I've been doing this a long time. I'm
Yeah.
pushing pretty damn close to 20 years, or maybe even more than 20 years now. And
Yeah.
my first official job in the music industry was an assistant at an agency, quickly moved up to becoming an agent, and was booking tours for bands, and left there in, God, I want to say like 1997. There was
Mm,
a lot of consolidation that was starting in the music industry into what eventually morphed into Live Nation. And it
nice.
just felt like the role of an agent was going to change drastically. It changed, but not as drastically as I thought. And I wanted to pivot and get ahead of it, and made some changes. And the first thing I did is I went to work for a record label for a while. I was working for a label called Wind Up Records,
Nice.
overseeing tour marketing, which took that same kind of knowledge of the tour business but brought it to the label side, which gave me an interesting new background.
Nice.
And after that, I went and worked for what was called at the time an internet startup in like 1999, and like the early dot-com boom, where there was the boom and bust that happened many years ago. and I worked for this music internet-based startup that was built around advertising on music websites. They were 20 years too early, or at least 15 years too early. It was a great idea. Some brilliant people are all still in the business, but the industry wasn't ready for what they were building at the time. But it gave me just some great exposure that stuck with me through all the years. Some of it being relationships and just knowledge of how marketing and advertising was going to work on the internet before it was commonplace. Yeah. And I went from there, went back to a record company and was doing marketing for a label within the Warner Music Group. And the label got shut down just before 9/11. And I was in this weird period of time where I was trying to find a new job, but you couldn't look for a job in New York, like during that 9/11 era. I mean, it was just like, it would have just seemed out of line to even ask someone.
Yeah.
So it was just a weird era. And, you know, I talk about it now, like that's what led me to my partners that I had initially when I launched my company and I starting our management company. And I've joked, but kind of not joking, that, you know, 9/11 put me in business and COVID may put me out of business. And,
yeah,
you know, I was definitely very down, like a lot of people were, and stressed out. How are we going to survive? Because, you know, we're looking at potentially 2 years until live music is back from the start of this problem through till when we get back to work. And, you know, in the early days, if you asked me, I would have told you that live streaming concerts, you know, ticketed live streaming concerts would never work in the States. It's not something Americans are interested in. And I went from that opinion to a month later becoming one of the thought leaders on live streaming.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, it's exciting in the sense of how fast things are moving. And every week I'm watching new streaming companies come, new ideas come and go. Yeah. And we're creating a new industry now. And I look at it compared to what, you know, people like Bill Graham, who helped create national live touring in the 60s. I compare what they were doing then to what we're doing now. We're just writing our own rules. And, you know, you look at a company like Ticketmaster or Live Nation, which has controlled touring for the vast majority of artists for decades now in whatever varying forms they were in. And it's exciting now because we can control the data. When you sell a ticket on Ticketmaster, I don't know how many people realize this, but the artist never gets any of that data. It's the company's data. So there's going to be a year to 2 years of concerts now where the fans control all the data, and we can then use that data to build other businesses and grow. When I say other businesses, I mean other businesses for the artist's own career.
Right.
And it's exciting. It doesn't matter if you're an artist who hasn't played their first show yet and are starting to do live streaming as their first show, or an artist that's selling out arenas. Either way, that control of that information is going to allow you to better market yourself when you come out of the pandemic. It's going to allow you to, for the first time ever, know whoever's seeing you live, how to sell them a record or a stream or drive them to a music video, just whatever content you're creating. And it's just, it's exciting because it's one of the final pieces of the puzzle left that, for the time being, the artist is going to control that relationship. Yeah. And that said, we can dive into your questions in a minute. I don't mean to be babbling,
No, this is what we're here for. Yeah, I mean, that whole concept of, you know, being able to take, you know, the literally take control of the data and take control of your content, and being able to say, you know what, this is how I'm going to present. This is how I'm going to approach my fans, and being able to have that control from A to Z, and being able to, you know, use different platforms, use different companies, experiment and find out like what your, you know, we'll call it live streaming tech stack would be. And then it's like, you know what, this is what works for us. And that's, you know, again, it's once we get past, and some of us are, you know, some of us take longer than others, but, you know, the more quickly we got past what we've lost and start to pivot and focus on what we can gain and what benefits come from our loss, you know, so to speak, of loss of the gigs. Obviously, there's a lot of serious stuff going on with the pandemic, but, you know, with the loss of the gigs, but when we can think about what we can gain, then the sky's the limit. And, you know, you guys are, you know, with Underoath. I mean, you guys are a great example of, just taking that whole live stream concept and just kind of turning it on its head. So, with that, let me ask you this. Just tell me a little bit about Underoath, and then kind of where you were. I know you had some big plans like right before COVID hit. So kind of tell me about that time frame and your mindset. I think you mentioned a little bit, but that time frame right before COVID hit and what you were kind of planning to do with the band.
Yeah, so if people aren't familiar, Underoath's a heavy rock band. They've been around for almost 20 years now. Like touring wise, we typically are playing to 1,000 to 2,000 people a market, although we have markets like Tampa, our hometown, where they sold out the Sun Dome Arena, which holds a little over 5,000. In LA, they played the Shrine last time and just about sold that out, which is another 5,000 people. So it gives you an idea of the size. They're a big band, in the sense of if you're a new band starting off, but they're not, the band that's selling out the arena every time they come through. We're a working class band. Everybody makes just enough money to most of the time not have another job. But sometimes, especially right now, I have guys in the band who are working too because there's no other way to get by. And our plans for 2020 were we were going out in a support slot opening up for Slipknot this past summer that just ended. And it was going to be the first time the band ever played Madison Square Garden, a couple of other major arenas and sheds. So it was an exciting moment for the career of the band to really just like walk into these places that they've only heard about and play in front of, tens of thousands of people that unfortunately did not come.
Yeah. And so that was planning. That plan was to basically, the tour was going to start this last summer.
Yeah, it was going to start in late May and go through till just about July. It was a short tour, but it was every couple of nights in all the biggest venues. And then our plan after that was to do a couple of festival shows throughout the year and make a record before the end of the year. That was our loose plan we had been working with.
Nice. So cool. And so then, so as, understanding me and obviously looking at the history of what actually happened and kind of knowing what led up to it. So another thing to note is like the band has been together a while and has put out several projects, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so obviously, one thing to note here again, regardless of the size of your band, regardless of the size of your audience, at one point it doesn't really matter what the size is, but if you are going to have ticketed live streams, if that's going to be a part of your strategy, you do want to have something that people want to buy, or at least be able to have either a product and or momentum or something where people are going to want to your fans are going to want to be able to know that it's worth, let me go ahead and put something towards this because I really want to see this experience. But so Randy, tell me a little bit then about how the pivot changed and when this idea came up for the actual concert and thing that you guys ended up putting on.
Yeah, so it's interesting. One of the things that I just talk about in general for anyone who's an artist is you need to have multiple ideas of things you want to do into the future of your band's career. And one of the ideas that we'd been sitting on was the idea of going out and playing smaller clubs than they usually play and playing each of their biggest albums in their entirety, start to finish. So it'd be going into different cities and doing like a 3-night stint, playing the small club in town to play each record. And we've been sitting this idea going, you know what, in a summer where we don't have a tour and, unfortunately being a band, it's a business. Take it or leave it, it's a business. So we're like, this is a business idea. When we need money, we could go out and do a tour playing these records and doing a re-release of the vinyl of them because there's fans who are looking for them. They're selling for a lot of money on Discogs and other sites. So we're like, when we need it, we'll go out and do this tour. COVID hits, we needed it, but obviously you can't tour. And we pivoted this initial idea we had to bring it online and said, let's do the same thing, make it a weekly series over the course of a month, and we'll do reissues of the vinyl. We'll play the record start to finish. We'll do merch drops around each of those albums. And we'll just host it all online and make it a ticketed event. And on top of that, we'll build this all within its own site where you can sell the ticket, the merch, and the vinyl all in one singular basket, rather than working with some of these sites where you have to go one place to watch the stream, another place to buy the merch, and then one place to buy the stream, another place to watch the stream, and a third place to buy the merch, and maybe a fourth place to buy the vinyl if your label controls all the rights on that. So we were able to consolidate and build it all into one location, and we used a commerce platform called Shopify to do all that, and we built our own Shopify store that then used various Shopify apps to do that. And like one of the Shopify apps we used is an app called Single Music. And Single Music, one of the apps that they have within their suite of apps, is a way to gate content and host it in a Shopify store, which obviously fit perfectly for this idea we had.
Yes.
So we employed their app, and then we employed some interesting marketing acts within Shopify, and we're able to control the entire experience, like we're talking about with the data before too.
Right.
I now have all the data on all these fans to use as we're now going to go and make a record, and we have more data than we normally would have on our fans to then market that new album to those fans.
Nice. And so then the first, and just if you guys are watching this, so the first big, like he kind of, mentioned it just kind of in passing, but let me tell you, and I should ask you, like, how long did it take you to, like, find your solution with Shopify and then, like, get it built out? Because that type of control obviously has its benefits, but knowing where to go and then knowing how to get, to get that quote unquote tech stack or so, in place, takes some time. So how long did it take you guys to really build that framework?
As you know, things are moving fast and crazy right now. We went from initial loose concept to launch in 4 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah. So nice. It was fast. And, honestly, we probably could have moved quicker if we had to.
Right.
But, it was a lot of vetting of platforms and just talking to people, and beyond vetting of platforms, talking to the few managers who had done streams so far and artists directly, and just learn what worked and what didn't work so that we could build our own concept.
Yeah. And I guess that's another question too, is like, how many platforms did you end up, like, obviously you didn't start with Shopify, but how many did you vet before you got there?
Interestingly, it was the first one we looked at, and we looked for something better. So
Gotcha.
we're all big Shopify fans around the band and have utilized it for years in various fashions. So we were all about it, but we wanted to, and this is what's important too. It's another lesson to have, is even if you think your idea is great, go out and try to find a better idea. Before you run with your great idea, don't be offended when somebody questions your idea, because we all questioned our own idea. We had the concept that Shopify was right, but we spent weeks looking at all the other platforms just to be sure there wasn't something we were missing. And we felt very strongly it was the right solution. And looking at the solutions, this is important for a lot of artists of all size too, is there's ultimately two types of solutions out there. There's easily 50 to 60 different live streaming solutions for artists now. But the vast majority are broken up into two baskets. One is the Stage It model, where you have Stage It, Moment House, and countless others like them that are out there now, that are, you're driving your fans to another company's platform, and they're doing the ticketing for you. They are either owning your data or have access to your data. And then the other kinds of platforms are the white labeled solutions, where you build everything yourself using someone else's tech stack, but it's all branded around your artist. And those are two decisions you need to make as you're going into this. What are your goals? If you're a completely unknown act and no one knows about you, maybe one of these platforms will help you because you could be part of a community and be discovered within that community. So that may be a reason to not white label it and do it yourself. My feeling is if you have any kind of fan base, even if you have, 10 fans a city or, 300 fans that you think are going to buy tickets, if you do it on your own, you have complete control of that relationship, both before, during, and after the show. So it's important to figure out what your needs are as you're vetting those platforms. And while I personally don't like the Stagits of the world, it's not that I dismiss their business model. It's not that I think they're bad people. It's not that I don't think you should use them. For the type of artists that I'm interested in working with, I don't think they provide value, but they do provide value in the market in the right scenario too.
Gotcha. That's a great point. So two types of, live stream ticketing solutions: the Stagit, driving traffic, driving your fans, to their site. They control the experience, but then white label is being able to basically customize your experience, and you guys can control the data before, during, and after the stream, which, speaking of, you did, in my opinion, did an awesome job of doing just that. In the link to this actual post, I recommended that people go out to the Underoath Instagram and check out the story highlights for the observatory, because just skimming through that and seeing what you put together beforehand, and then seeing how you promoted it, day of, and each album, but then also looking back through the feed and seeing all of the the watch parties, and just being able to watch it until a certain time to get that sense of urgency and all of that stuff. In fact, let me pull that up. All of that stuff can really only happen if you have control of what you're doing, because now you're able to, I'm assuming that emails were going out to fans and all that stuff behind the scenes as well.
Oh yeah, and utilizing marketing apps within Shopify to communicate with those customers to keep them fully engaged at all times about those shows. And just one other important piece to throw in there with everything you were saying, and I said, prior to that, is that you need to look at live streaming as a business. Just as touring is a business, releasing an album is a business. A lot of people are missing that mark when they're putting together a live stream. And when you go out on a tour isn't a group of unrelated shows. A tour is an entity where you're printing a merch line for that tour. You have some kind of branding for that tour. You have an ad map that's going to be the same one you're using for every show. You need to do the exact same thing when you're going out there and building a live stream. You need to think, what are the different revenue streams that you could create around that show? Certainly there's going to be a ticket. If you're selling tickets, then there should be merchandise. There could be a physical vinyl, cassette, CD, or digital download. But then from there, you could go even further. Like if you're going to do a show on Halloween, maybe you create some really cool Halloween elements that are tied into the show. If you're doing a summer show that's like a backyard barbecue thing, and you have a little bit of a followership, maybe you find some kind of barbecue sauce brand to partner with you, and you sell barbecue sauce that's branded to your event. Like you have to think bigger than we're just playing a show tonight.
Right.
Just like when you're playing your big show, like if you're planning a show for your band, you want to make it a record release show. You want to make it first big hometown show. There's always an element that you're looking for to tell your story, and your live stream should be no different.
Shoot. Well, that's all for today, guys. If you, it's not. No, but that is a really good point. And that is something that I think, that's really a lot of the reason that I've been focusing on this for a while, and why we actually have the course talking about Livestream Strategies is because of what you just said, is that, your fans are going to respond to your live stream with the same amount of interest that you put into it. So if you're just throwing up a stream, then they're going to catch it or they won't, and they're going to have the same impression that you would if that you have basically. But being able to create those elements that tie into other things that don't have to be. I love the fact that you said the barbecue sauce, because like it does not have to be. I've got to go work with a music company to help partner with this stream or with this event. That creativity and being able to get your stream and your business into other parts of just mainstream culture and all of that stuff. Those are the things that are going to set you apart. And obviously Underoath has an awesome following, and again, they were primed to do a really cool tour and things like that. But just looking at the framework, Randy, one of the elements that I've read about is how you were able to incorporate and involve other promoters and other people into the process. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we built what ultimately became an affiliate network to involve promoters who don't have shows to promote right now, unfortunately, to involve them in our partnership. And the idea initially evolved from, I wanted to go to NIVA, which is the National Independent Venue Association, who are working to lobby the government right now to support and save independent venues who are at risk of going out of business right now because of the pandemic. So I went to that organization at first. That didn't work out as smoothly as I would have hoped. So I went directly to the promoters and the club owners themselves, said, hey, we're doing these shows. We want to send some money your way, in exchange for you helping to promote the shows and, kind of put them back to work doing what they do best. And we carved out a plan where each promoter was in essence given tickets at $10 wholesale and allowed to sell them at $15. And they were able to generate additional revenue around live touring that no promoter was able to do at that time.
Right.
And part of our thinking there was, obviously, let's help some clubs. It was, let's help these shows to reach more people. But then it comes into the bigger business and the story aspect that I talked about before when I mentioned barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
It's how do you create a narrative that more people are going to talk about so that more people are going to watch your stream. And we have some ideas up our sleeves for the next streams we do too, to bring new ideas to the market, because everything you do isn't, you can't look at it even as we can't afford to give the promoters $5 a ticket, because I didn't even look at it that I was giving them tickets, $5 from a ticket. I looked at that I was getting another piece of marketing, and that there was a cost. There's always a cost to marketing, but it really isn't $5 a ticket, because the articles that we had in Billboard and Forbes and all these other articles were written about this $5 a ticket tool that we built. And most of those people who read those articles weren't going to the promoter sites, unfortunately, which honestly disappointed me a little bit. But they were coming back to the band directly, and we're generating additional dollars now on word of mouth. So it didn't cost me $5 a ticket. It may have costed me $1 a ticket to do that when you look at the halo effect of all the other ways the tickets were sold. And then also we were giving the promoters $5 a ticket in the affiliate model, but many of them were coming back and buying the vinyl from us too. And the promoter was only paid on the ticket portion. That's how the deal was structured. So I had a basket that was $85 or even $100. And at that point, then I'm only giving 5% on a $100 basket. So I'm not paying out as much as it seems like. So you have to think big to make big money.
Yeah, and so even on, as you mentioned, you guys were going to be going to smaller clubs, when this was, prior to COVID and things like that. But, even for some of the bands that, may only be playing in their local or regional market, the same thing is true. There's promoters out there that don't have anything to promote right now, or they don't have as much as they were promoting. So, if you're a band that's been on your scene for a while and you've been working with, agents and things like that, start there and see what kind of, interest there might be. Again, coming to the table with the product and with a live stream that you've, put together and you've got some thought into. So don't just say, hey, I want to go stream from my my bedroom and see if people want to jump in on that. But depending on what your actual, music style is, on what your genre is and things like that, you could be someone that would actually, as Randy mentioned, benefit from the backyard barbecue style show, or you could be someone who usually does that, who does a more polished show as the paid ticket experience or whatever. So there's no, we're not here to say that there's one right way to do this, but just being able to think of live streaming as a business and this show as an experience, because people aren't, everyone's looking at the screen, and I think that's what, whether major label or indies or local bands, like what COVID has done is, basically leveled the playing field to where, all of our audiences now are kind of looking at the same thing, and so it's, you've got a little bit of time here, I think, before we start to see some different technologies kind of, rise to the top. But it's the wild wild west out there, guys, and you've a lot of opportunities to do that. But Randy, one of the other cool things that you guys approach, not just with the ticketing part of it, but obviously it was the staging. Like,
Yep.
that whole that whole thing too was another example of, oh yeah, it might not be able to look exactly like this, and I'll try to pull up a picture here, but I was thinking too, like my band, we would go to our local rehearsal space, and they would set up lighting for us, just for us to practice with and things like that. So obviously there's some other things
I'm
involved
sending
in
you a
that.
private chat with a link that you
Oh,
can
cool.
pull up.
Nice. Got it.
You could share it with everyone too if you wanted. I just don't have a way to do that
Oh, no, that's okay.
on my end.
I'll do it. And so yeah, tell us a little bit about the staging and how that came about, and kind of the role that whole piece like came to
Yeah, well,
fruition.
the staging side of it came from we and our creative agency that we're friends with. And when I say our creative agency, it's a friend of ours who is an artist and graphic designer and has, over time built more of a company. But at first and foremost, it's a friend of ours. So
Hmm.
our friends, we got together and we talked about what can we do to replicate the emotion of a live show without replicating the typical same boring experience of a live stream. To date, all we had seen from everyone that was doing live streams is bands replicating what a show is, which is a band standing on a stage looking at a wall behind an empty room. And we just felt like that brought nothing tangible to the band or audience. So we set up this concept where the band played in the round, and they were all looking at each other, as you could see in some of this branding. And our branding tied into it too. Like, if you look, like, you see, like, each band member has their spot, and they're all in a circle facing each other, and then there's cameras in the middle of the circle covering each band member, or each quadrant, I should say, or each I don't know what the proper word is for 3 sections.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, but for each of the third sections, we had a separate camera capturing them, and then we had an overhead camera mounted, and then some other mounted cameras behind the drummer. And the idea was that you felt like you were playing, that you, as in the audience, were inside with the band.
Nice.
And it was very important to us that the band had a great experience and they were playing to each other rather than an empty room, so that they kept the energy up. And the fan felt like they were standing in between all the members. And it changed the whole energy and brought that experience of you're in the show. And that's what people...
That's awesome.
We felt were lacking in most live streams, is you were trying to replicate the live experience, but that's not really what you needed to do. You want to replicate the emotion that you get when you're watching a live show.
Yeah, and it's that emotional connection of, at least what I feel, and just being on stage myself and missing that part of it. It's been a few years, but just missing that part of being able to see facial expressions, in person, and being able to read the emotion and the energy of a room. Like, it can change your show. Like, we changed a set list on a on a dime if I felt like, oh, something, yeah, this is not what we're needing right now. But being able to verbalize that or translate that to, a screen where it's us and them is definitely a very difficult thing to do. But having the band members actually look at each other, that's an awesome kind of way to, yeah, just kind of really.
This shot, by the way, this was our overhead camera, which was just kind of like a wow moment when we saw how great it looked.
Yeah.
Like, we expected it to be a cool shot, but like this just, to us, this sums up our month of work building this concept in that photo, because you've never seen a live, like, that's not a doctored image. You've never seen a live shot of a band that looks like that. As long as we've lived, there's never been a shot. Like, to us, that was exciting.
Yeah, no, that is exciting. That's kind of, it's like, well, it's basically live art is what it looks like.
Exactly. And we ended up making a merch item of this. This was a happy accident. This image, like, we wanted this image to look good. We didn't know exactly what it would come out like, and it became a poster, a shirt, our core branding image, for the remaining shows after we got that image from the first show.
That's
but
great.
That said, it all comes from planning. Like, you look at what our imagery was, how we were planning to do this, and then you're going to get the happy accidents from there.
And so yeah, tell me a little bit just about how you got, how you set this up. So I know you mentioned that there's cameras in the middle and things like that, but your friend, basically, is this a rehearsal space that you were able to convert, or a studio?
So the place that we built this, which is another interesting point, if you have a little bit of money or some relationships, not a lot, like this cost us a couple of $1,000s for this location. So it's real money, but not a fortune. We went to a local production company that rents out sound and lights to artists to go on tours and for other like events in general in Tampa, and said to them, we want to do a show using all of your lights, but we don't need to go anywhere. Can we just set them up in the room? Right. So we literally just set them up in the middle of their warehouse, and we created a stage with their own equipment in their own building. So we got a much better rate on renting all this stuff for two reasons. One, it's COVID, and they just need any business they can get. And we didn't take advantage of them, obviously, but like they were happy we're bringing business and putting them on the map. But beyond that, it's less of a risk for them. It's always riskier for them once their gear leaves the building. When their gear is in the building, they know it's being treated great. And then, a third component to that is we didn't need to hire a bunch of additional techs, because the company has their own techs there who could build their own equipment in their own place. And for COVID safety also, we didn't need to fly a bunch of people in to set this up. We had our lighting designer who designed all this was sitting in Philadelphia and watching on a video camera as it was being built to supervise, and didn't have to be there.
Wow.
And their techs built to our specs. So you're able to get really creative in the COVID era to make it work affordably, and be safe.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, just the, how big was the overall stage?
I don't know the exact measurements. I have it somewhere, but
oh, that's okay. I was just curious.
It was similar to a standard stage, though. Ultimately.
Gotcha. Cool. And yeah, so I love the whole concept of, not trying to mimic what a typical live music experience would be. And just, guys, if that's one thing that I'd love for you to take away from this, is just being able to think outside of the box of, maybe some things that you can collaborate with other entities in the music business that are even in your local scene. As I'm looking at this, if I was still back in Indianapolis, I'd be like, you know what, I'm going to call up Kingston's rehearsal space, and I'm going to be like, hey, can we, I don't know, I've got a GoPro, we can do panoramic, or we can do a couple of different things, could you set up your stuff, and could we have some extra light? Like, you start to get creative in terms of, oh, you know what, we could do this, and this would be cool. Have panoramic shots.
Yeah. And you can also go to a venue and you could play on the stage and do that empty venue vibe if that's right for the reason.
True.
You could play on the floor in the venue because that creates some unique experience. You could play in the lobby of a venue. There's so many ways to look at it. And I'm talking to one artist right now where I'm helping produce a stream for them. And we've talked about the idea of playing on the stage, but playing with our back to what the audience would be and having the curtain down in the venue. So it feels more like a studio, but you're still getting the full elements of what's in a venue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
That's cool.
You just need to think outside the box. You don't need to recreate what's normally done.
Yeah. Yeah, and just being able to put this together, and then just briefly, you mentioned having control of the data before, during, and after. So how did the live streams actually roll out when you did them? So I know what you were planning to do, just with the tour kind of thing, but how did the actual live streams roll out when you guys put them?
Yeah, so we put all 3 shows on sale at one time in conjunction with the vinyl reissues. So everything was available up front, and through Shopify's various marketing apps we employed, and then Google Pixels and Facebook Pixels, we're capturing information on everyone who came to the store, and we're able to retarget them via email, Facebook, and Google to track them and remind them and offer them additional pieces after the show happened or after they made their purchase. So ultimately, it all lived in a store, and there were bundles. There was the single ticket. There was a ticket with vinyl. There was the ticket with vinyl and a shirt. Those were kind of the 3 core bundles. Then you had an all-access bundle that got you all the shows and all those other pieces. And, we kept it somewhat limited. We didn't, sometimes with this band, we'll do a ton of different packages. Right. But we felt like it was ticket vinyl shirt, and that's it. Not like 10 different varieties. And then we kept new shirt designs that were launched the day of each stream. So we would email people a reminder of the next show. These shirts were available during the stream or beforehand to customers who had already bought a ticket. They were made aware of it, and allowed us to have another rush of merch each week because people would see a new design.
Nice. And there's definitely, multiple trains of thought out there in terms of price points and the number of bundles and things like that. Some people will say, give your people, multiple price points because no telling when or where someone would want to enter, the price. But I think it's also worth noting that, a confused mind does not buy. So the more easy you can make it for people to know what's going on, then they're going to be able to, react more quickly and be able to purchase things. So obviously, just with the newness of the live stream experience and what you guys put together, having something more, simple and laid out was probably a very good benefit to you, because people didn't have to spend time reading through a whole long form sales page of all of the different options they could have. It's like, look, I want to go to the show, and yes, I want the vinyl. No, I don't want the shirt. Or yes, shirt and vinyl. So keeping it simple was worked out very well for you, apparently. So
and it's something that you should think about whenever you're doing anything. And in addition to that, you should also think about the idea of, wow, I just lost my train of thought. The number of clicks. You should be thinking about how many times someone's going to click to make a purchase. So when you're building a store, you really want to have that purchase in the same location as the stream if you can. And if it's not, don't send them to your website to then go to your store. Drive them directly to your store, because it's scientifically proven every additional click reduces the conversion rate for sales. So you need to keep that in mind at all times.
Mm-hmm. So then when the actual live streams were going, were there obviously people were watching the streams and things like that. So were there, merch buttons and things like around the actual visual, or if not, I'm assuming like it was only a couple of clicks at most for people to buy
Yeah,
stuff while they were watching.
they were there, but most fans, once, like, they were really buying it pre and post show, because during the show, most people were casting it to their TV and they were actually watching,
Yeah.
which is great. And it's kind of what you want. Like, during the show,
True.
is usually the merch slow down when you're doing a regular show.
Yeah.
So we saw some of the same thing there.
And did you have, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but what was going on? Did you have people, did you have, I should say, comments and things like that, comment streams that were going, or was it primarily just for the show?
There was a comments window on the side of the screen that you could minimize or look at. It was, the viewer's choice, but fans were in there, and, the comments were blowing at, like, thousands of comments a second, it looked like. I don't know what the actual numbers were, but it just, to me, being the old guy, I was like, this is unreadable. I don't know why anyone cares. But, I glanced at it just to see what people were saying and kind of moved on.
Nice. Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, wow. And then just to kind of like then put a bow on this whole experience then. So after these streams were aired initially, kind of what was your post stream strategy?
Yeah. Okay. This is a good one. I'll try to keep it short.
Yeah.
So basically, we kept the store live. The idea was the store launched July 6th. All the shows started on the 16th, I think, and they went through to the end of the month weekly. Then we kept all items up and still viewable for the video content for each show stayed available all through August. So it was available on video on demand for whenever anyone wanted to watch it. Now come the fall, my strategy is we're going to offer to anyone who purchased the shows already, the streams of the shows, we're going to offer them a downloaded version of both the audio and video at, a very reduced rate. Like it'll probably be, we haven't finalized our pricing, but the rough idea is we'll sell them for $20 to someone who wasn't already a customer. But if you had already bought the stream for the $15 stream, for an extra $5, you could own it. And we'll give you a high quality 4K version of the stream. So, cool. And the way we're going to do it is once a month or once every 28 days to go along with Spotify's algorithm, we'll release one of the shows on both audio and video. And then weekly, we'll release videos on YouTube of one song per week throughout this whole campaign to have new video content that will drive people to listen to the music on the streaming services and perhaps buy it. So this will be like weekly processes going on as long as a monthly campaign. This should go on for 3 months. And at the end of the 3 months, if everything goes according to plan, I'll be releasing my first single for the next record. And I don't know that that'll happen as planned, but that's loosely how we want to play this out. So we're kind of utilizing this to drive what comes next.
Wow. So, ladies, gentlemen, that's how you plan. That's how you not just, plan something awesome, put it together and work with, other entities to, put together an awesome stream, and then like consolidate your tech so that you can control all the data. But I'm so glad I asked you about your post stream strategy, because like that is one of the things I think we miss out a lot on, myself included, is like you've taken the time to put together this event or this stream or whatever it is, and then the temptation then is like, okay, cool, I got that little high, let me go make another one. It's like, don't forget there's other ways to repurpose, there's other ways to make what you've already done a sellable product, or at least something that people might want to experience. And guess what? Not everybody saw it the first time anyway. So, you still have some fans out there that might want to check it out. So, hey, thanks, Ross. Ross said, great stream, guys. Really informative and a lot to think about. That's all we want for Christmas, man. But I love the opportunity that's in that of being like, okay, we're going to basically milk this
Mhm.
thing that we've done, repurpose it, being able to offer it, and then by the time that we're done, we're not going to rest. We've actually got something else for you. Like that's just great planning. Obviously, you've got a great got a great outlook, and you've obviously done these plans before. You've had lots of success. So,
Yeah, I want to add one quick little thing that's important to all that is some of this
please,
plan came on the fly. Like all of this plan wasn't 100% laid out initially.
mm-hmm.
Some of it was built around fan reaction and what we were learning. And one of the interesting things was our plan was that we were going to release the audio of each of these records on Spotify and the streaming services. That it's our three biggest records. We own the rights to those songs now because we're past our re-record restrictions.
Yeah.
So let's have versions of each of these records out for eternity to generate revenue. But one of the interesting things that happened in all those comments that were flying by that I was half paying attention to was
You paid enough attention to them.
Yeah, I paid enough attention to get this one important piece. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of people asking us to release the shows on Blu-ray. I kind of said, Blu-ray? Are you people insane? What do you need? I don't have a time machine to go back to when that was relevant.
Right.
But I'll give you a high-quality digital download. It's a hell of a lot easier, and it's what I think the market as a whole wants. So it was not something we were thinking about, but the fans demanded it, and it cost us nothing. So why wouldn't we? It's engaging our customers an additional time that we weren't planning to do, which pleases them. We're giving them the product that they want. We're continuing to collect more data on our fans to help launch the next record. So it's a win for the fan. It's a win for the artist. And we want to price it in a way where, we're going to make some money to cover our costs. Because it's expensive to mix and master these records again. So like that costs us some real money. So we need to make that money somewhere, and we're making that by selling it, ideally for $5 a piece. And I don't think anyone will be offended by being charged $5 for what they all viewed as high quality content.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Is that plans don't have to be something that you think of from scratch. I mean, listening to your fans, that's probably the most important thing that you can do, because they're going to tell you what they like and what they don't. And when they tell you, you got to listen. Give them more of the stuff that they like and give them less of the stuff that they don't, So yeah, Randy, man, I have 80 other questions I could ask you, but I know you need to go, and I want to make sure.
I got a 1 o'clock call. I apologize, folks.
No, you're good. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on. Members, please, if you have any questions for Randy or about their experience, go ahead and drop them in the comments, even after the live stream is over, and we can, see what we can do to get those answered. But Randy, thank you so much, man. Best of luck to you, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on Underoath and your progress here over the next few months.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That is it for our stream today. Randy Nichols with Force Media Management and the manager of Underoath. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll drop a link to the Livestream Strategies course in the caption or in the comments of this as well. If you haven't started that, we've got some great stuff in there, and this live stream will be in there soon as well. So thank you so much for being a part of the Artist Collective. And next month, guys, get ready for AC Evan talking all about branding. It's going to be a great month. Once again, this is Leonard with the Artist Collective, AC Leonard P, AC-Leonard P, I should say, not dash, AC_Leonard P on Instagram. Come check me out over there. I'd love to connect with you guys. All right, have a great day, and I will see you soon.